Hey guys, before we get into the garden tour today, I have an announcement. So every quarter of last year and the previous year, I have put out a brand new sticker design just for my patrons. And this quarter will be no different. This whole year, I've got the stickers planned out for you. But I wanted to talk specifically today about this quarter sticker. This sticker has a really lovely story behind it. So when I first moved to this house, actually I was living next door for the first 6 months because my landlord owned that one too, and this one was being renovated. Regardless, there's this little girl who lives across the street who had been coming over and helping my landlord do the renovations on this house. And so I met her. Her name is Alana. And she started coming over and helping with stuff, and we got to chatting, and then eventually she just started coming over to hang out with me, which I've really enjoyed. I have really loved getting to know her, and she's come and helped with a lot of garden stuff too. She's never been in videos because she is a minor, and I don't want to deal with the legal ramifications of any of that, but she told me that one of her big dreams is to become an artist, and when I heard that, I knew that I had to let her design a sticker for the garden. So I told her to draw something that she really normally likes drawing and then make it garden themed. And we came up with this. The original drawing was done in colored pencil, and then I digitized it for her, and I made as few changes as possible to the design. I just did what I had to do to make sure that it looked right in a digital and now sticker format. And I'm really happy with it. I think it's really cute and very unique. Like, I don't think you're gonna find anything that looks like this anywhere else. Additionally, what I like to do with all my artists is I want to use my platform to help support them as well. And so for every sticker that I've ever offered, that artist gets 15% of my Patreon income while their sticker is actively offered. And the same will be true for Alana. So any of you that are currently on my Patreon or join in the next 3 months, so January, February, or March, that money will be going to support Alana. And if you've never heard of my Patreon or the sticker program before, I'll just fill you in real quick. Essentially, via my Patreon, most tiers of the Patreon levels will earn a sticker every 3 months. So every 3 months that you're subscribed, you get a brand new sticker from an artist that is somebody that I know in real life and would like to throw some of my support towards their artistic endeavors. All of the stickers are custom made for me and the channel, and someday I might be able to offer them in like a shop type situation for anybody to just buy the stickers, but currently they are only available through Patreon and only for the specific amount of time. So each quarter the sticker changes out, and once that sticker is gone, there is no guarantee that it will ever be brought back. So if you'd like to look into joining me on Patreon, the link is right below here, and it will explain everything to you. If you've never heard of Patreon, don't really know what it's about, once you get to the link, I think everything will make a lot more sense. And those of you who have been patrons of mine for pretty long time now, some of you have been there since I started, I am so grateful to you guys. It means the world to me that you're willing to support me in that way, and I'm very excited to have an audience of people to curate these sorts of stickers for. I think it's really fun, and I think it's a really neat little community that we have, especially in the Discord. So also through my Patreon, you can join a private Discord group where we chat about our gardens and like things that we're cooking from our garden, etc. And it's just been really cool getting to know a few of you guys more deeply and hear about what's actually going on in your garden throughout the whole year. All right, enough from me. Here's the garden tour. Hello everybody. Welcome back to the garden. It's been a while. And this is the first time that we are looking at the garden in 2025. Now, over the break, I did not come out here very much. It got pretty cold, and I was busy with the holidays, and I just didn't come out and do very much in the garden, so let's see how it's doing. It's a little chilly out here, but only when the wind blows. When the sun comes out, it's actually pretty decent with my sweatshirt and my hat, but This is probably the most dead that things are gonna look all year. I think from here, we are only going to start seeing life come back to the garden. And it'll be slow at first. I'm not really expecting to see a lot until maybe February, but I am actually starting seeds very soon. I'm starting majority of my seeds in February, but there are quite a few things that I am going to need to be starting this month. One of the major ones is going to be the rhubarb, and that'll need to be started inside and go outside in the spring. And I'm also looking at starting some brassicas, like maybe some kales, to go out here for the spring. I'm thinking that I wish I had started them sooner, but we're gonna do what we can with the time that we have. And I think I have some pretty heat-resistant kale varieties that I can try out and see if we can't get some kale in and growing before spring. The biggest problem with winter gardening in South Carolina is that it just gets warm really, really fast. We don't have all that much of a winter. I mean, I'm out here in just a sweatshirt, no jacket. It's about 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's just really hard to grow those cold weather crops over the winter because we just don't have that much of a winter to start with. Let's see. So we're checking in on the garlic here. This looks like it's had a little bit of frost damage. And see, that's the other problem, is even though we generally don't have that much long-term consistent cold weather, we do still get the cold snaps. So it's not like we're fully able to grow only warm, loving plants here. Garlic is pretty resistant to most things. Like, in general, all these little garlic sprouts look absolutely fine. I'm not worried about them one bit. We've got a couple of live things in this row as well. Lavender right here is actually still looking fairly good. Right here at the top, the leaves look nice. It is struggling a little bit, but I'm thinking that in the spring it'll start looking a lot happier. Something else that is technically alive over here that I haven't seen really do much is my potato onions. You can see sticking out here. This has been in the ground for like a couple of months now. There's another one right there. I kind of expected them to start doing something by now. They still feel very firm, so I know that they're not just sitting there rotting, right? But so far, no greens have grown up, which is just really surprising to me. That's not really what I expected. If it's still not doing anything by the time the weather is actually warming up in like March, then I'll start to be actually concerned. But for now, I'm just going to assume that it's still happily dormant in there. And next to all of that, I have all of these volunteer lettuces. I've been pulling from these for salads, and you can see some of the cold weather has been getting to it. You see how this leaf is just like kind of flopped? This one too shows a little bit. That's just it being unhappy with the cold. That's not it not getting enough water. We've actually gotten quite a bit of rain recently, with almost a whole inch overnight last night. So these guys are getting plenty of water, and you can see some of the newer leaves here. These look super healthy, and it's really just the outer leaves that are upset. So this is probably frost damage from a little bit longer ago. That's why these leaves would be a little droopy. Also, right in this general area, I do still have my volunteer carrots. I haven't pulled any of them yet, but an interesting thing for you guys to note, or that I noticed, is the greens are not growing super big on these. And I think that's more of an indication of nutrition in the soil than anything. And I say that especially because the roots are actually looking pretty decent sized. They don't look like they're overall malnourished. And so nitrogen would be the nutrient that makes all the greens grow. And then potassium, phosphorus, those other two big ones, are generally what you need for good root development. And so I'm seeing that these carrots have what they need for that root development here. And that's actually just telling me something about my soil that is really useful. So if we go on farther down the line of really dead looking stuff, we do have a few live things in here. This is a brassica. I don't remember what kind anymore. It looks like we've got a couple more volunteer lettuces, that one and that one right there. And there's also garlic planted straight down the middle of this entire row here. I'm also seeing some kohlrabi. This looks like this is doing decently well. I expect it'll be doing better around like February. That one's looking pretty good. And then you can see garlic there, garlic there, garlic there. There's another little baby garlic there. Just all the way kind of up the middle here. And farther down, not a whole lot going on in this area besides the garlic until we get down to the end here, where I have one teeny tiny baby broccoli that actually is pretty small. That's almost looking harvestable though, unfortunately. You can tell because it's starting to separate here at the top. Right next to it, we also have all of this random stuff that I threw in here. The dill has been surviving the winter, which I'm really happy about. We've got a little baby spinach in here, another baby spinach, some little lettuces. I think this one is a radish, actually. And these haven't gotten very big, probably because they're a little bit crowded, and also because low sunlight and very cold is just going to make everything grow a lot slower too. So all of that combined is probably keeping all of this very small. But I've got plenty of little dill plants in here that, again, come spring, if they survive, will definitely start to take off. And that'll be a perfect time for me to harvest dill for the year. I also have this massive rutabaga that probably should get pulled out by now. This is the only rutabaga I managed to grow. That thing is huge and it's sticking out quite a lot, which is why I'm thinking I should pull it sooner rather than later. I'll probably peel it and boil it and mash it like you would potatoes. Down here on the end, we have a couple of intentionally alive things. We've got the feverfew here, which I actually didn't expect to stay evergreen through the winter, so that's actually kind of really nice. And also over here, I have what I think is my valerian, which I mowed over a couple of times in the spring, and it really struggled to kind of get back started. And I also didn't realize that this one would be evergreen, but that's a neat thing to find out. And I'm looking forward to seeing what it does in the spring once things start to warm up. You know what I did expect to stay greener though would be my lemon balm. And this is by no means dead. If you look down here, you can see all its new little leaves it's putting up. But I didn't expect all this foliage to die back over the winter with the lemon balm. I thought it would be more like mint, a little bit more evergreen than this. So that's interesting to find out. Also in this general area, of course, are the cabbages. And these are looking excellent. I don't think they've really started heading up yet, like maybe a little bit here in the center. But they just look so gosh darn healthy. And I'm really excited to finally harvest a cabbage from the garden. Brussels sprouts are looking a little bit farther behind, still healthy, but not nearly as big as I would have wanted them to be at this time of year. Theoretically, they would have been like 2 or 3 times this size, and I would have been harvesting sprouts off of them since the frost came. But they're obviously pretty far behind that. And I'm now kind of just hoping that they will survive the winter and maybe I'll start getting sprouts in the springtime. Right here in the middle of all of this though, you can see my little baby onion starts that I've put in. This is theoretically the last year I'll be growing annual onions. I'm really hoping that the potato onions and the walking onions start kind of fulfilling all my onion needs over the course of the next couple of years. But in the meantime, I decided to still plant some annual onions just because I want to make sure that I have enough. I really rely on my onion supply throughout the year, and I think I would be really sad if I had to go back to buying onions from the store. Over here on my trellises, I do also still have some more onion starts going along the insides here. And mostly that's about it. We do also have our little baby, what I think are broccolis, hanging out here. These were volunteers that just showed up. And then farther along, we've got a single pea plant holding on to dear life. You can see its little friend here. Same variety, not like in the cold. If this thing survives through spring and actually manages to put out viable seeds, I am absolutely keeping these, because it's hard for me to get peas that will like actually survive a season here between the hot cold of our like weird fall and winter time. There's also only a couple of things going on in this final row out here. We've got the irises actually have been up for a while on this ridge right here by the swale. And then one row in from where the irises are some more onions that I've put in. Some of those are onion starts and some of those are ones that I forgot to pick last year. And then some of them are ones that I had inside that were sprouting that I decided to put in the ground, like these massive ones over here, which you can see when I get up close. Very obviously like a split onion. You can see all the different stems. That's coming from one onion bulb that split, which is what alliums do. They're bulbs. They split every year and give you multiples. Alright, if we go walk over here towards the raised beds, I can kind of show you guys some of the actual work that I have done over the break. You can see I've got brand new mulch in these beds, a little bit in this one as well. This one I filled with a lot of stuff. I put mushroom compost and just a generic topsoil in here and filled it up pretty good. Oh, and I also put a couple of buckets of bokashi down before I did all of that. So bokashi compost that had just come from the bucket. It was fermented but not composted yet. So that went down, and then mushroom compost, and then topsoil, and then mulch on top of that. And it looks a lot more empty now that I did that. I covered a lot of vegetation, but you can still see this is my marshmallow plant that should come back. This is my yarrow, which I also was not expecting to stay so green through the winter. I'm pretty certain that it'll survive this no problem. And then in here we have the asparagus, which most of the foliage had died back, and it should grow right back up from the crowns when the temperature is right. So I'm not really worried about fully covering that up either. In this raised bed over here, similarly, it looks a little bit more empty just because I've covered up a lot of stuff. We've got the stevia here, which went to seed, the sage, which nothing bothers sage, it always looks good, the Italian oregano, more of that feverfew, and my now very large thyme plant in here. In this tiered raised bed, I've got my calendula, which is surviving way longer than I really expected. Like, it's obviously not happy. This is not its best weather, but it's alive. It's still got green on it that's still doing photosynthesis, so that's interesting. I wonder how long that'll actually live. We've also got some hi-ho silver thyme in here, and interestingly you can see some of the leaves are coming in solidly colored instead of variegated. This is all the same plant, so that's very interesting. Also a couple of onions stuck in here that I forgot to harvest last year that just randomly started coming up. And we've got the carrots, which you can see I've been watching this one. Look at that. It's pretty good looking carrot. I've been pulling here and there from here. Generally these carrots are a little smaller, which is to be expected because they are very crowded. This is planted way closer together than you're supposed to plant carrots. But I'm still pretty happy with what has been coming out of here. Like, let's pull this one out and I'll show you. Like, that's a pretty decent carrot, all things considered. This is also a smaller variety. This isn't meant to be like a super big one. I'll have to put on the screen when it is. I don't exactly remember what I planted. The purple ones are purple dragon though. I remember that. I haven't paid any attention to this raised bed. It obviously needs to be filled up some more before next season, but I probably won't do that until I'm actually ready to plant something else in it. And in the meantime, some of these things are surviving. That's probably a Brussels sprout or a broccoli. That one's a cabbage. That one actually looks more like a Brussels sprout to me with the rounder leaves than this one with the more scalloped edges, so that one's probably the broccoli. We've got a couple of kales in here that just never did anything. This one is a kohlrabi, also just kind of meh, just doing okay over here. I also did mulch the this smaller raised bed here. This had the Jerusalem artichoke in it, and there are a few that after I harvested, I planted a few back in here, and I will most certainly have way more than I need next year. And this is also the evening primrose is in here, and I think these little seeds from these pods should reseed it coming into spring. Berry patch is generally very dormant this time of year. The St. John's wort actually appears to be indestructible. Nothing seems to bother it. The heat, the cold, the drought, none of it. It has just looked beautiful this whole year. So as a ground cover, I'm pretty happy with it. As a medicinal herb, I haven't used it yet just because it interacts with literally everything. It's really hard to find a use case for it where it's not going to be interfering with other medications or herbs that people are taking. But yeah, as a ground cover, it's been great. The garlic chives are a little unhappy with the cold, but they seem to be surviving. This blueberry bush looks really nice. It looks like it's going to have a great spring. You can see all the little buds that it's built up in here. And this is the only blueberry bush I have that looks remotely healthy. So, yeah, at least I'll have one. I mean, this guy over here has got like 2 little baby leaves. Not so happy. I might need to buy more of this particular variety and replant this area because the blueberries have just been kind of struggling this whole time. Oh, I almost ran my face into this branch. So blackberries, and raspberries, pretty much dormant. You can see the leaves have changed to be pretty dark colored here now. And mixed in with all of this dormant stuff is the rosemary, which again, it's another one of those plants that in my area, nothing phases it. Drought, cold, heat, whatever. It's going to look approximately the same and be just about as happy as it can be. And then this section right here is the citrus and the fig. My kumquat still has some green leaves on it. Oh wow, that was loud. I hope that engine didn't bother you guys too much. So these leaves, I did some reading. They are supposed to stay evergreen. So any dropped leaves is probably not like a great sign. But I am just happy that the thing is alive and not fully dead, because I think my other one might be fully dead. We'll pass over the fig because it's pretty dormant. And this is the limequat, and you can see it just looks really quite bad. No leaves left, and the stem is like brown and brittle. I don't have a lot of hope for it, but I won't mess with it until it's very clear in the spring that nothing is coming back. I knew that citrus was going to be a long shot in my area. That's why I started with kumquat, because it's supposed to be one of the most cold hardy citruses that you can grow. It's supposed to be good down to 10 degrees Fahrenheit. And the limequat is a cross of a lime and a kumquat, which is supposed to make limes that are more cold hardy, but apparently it's not quite as well adapted as the kumquat. Okay, and lastly we'll check on our little dormant babies here in the front. We have another little dormant fig and the elderberry, which again still has some green on it. Granted, some very struggling looking green, but it's green, and I have no doubt that this is a very vigorous plant. It should come back from the roots with a vengeance in the spring. Before I go, I am going to make a salad for lunch, so I'm going to pull some more carrots, and I thought I would let you guys watch because I think that sort of stuff is really satisfying to see. So let's go ahead and pull a few of these. Nice little purple one. What else we got that looks good in here? A lot of these ones in here are still looking pretty small. Oh, actually this one looks really good. Oh, wow, look at that. Oh, there's a little baby one it pulled up with it. But look at that guy. Come on. Okay. Little baby. Oh, 2 little babies came with it. That's a pretty good sized carrot. And let's see if we can get maybe one more of the orange ones. This one looks decent. Yeah. Not too terribly big. There's another one about the same size. Okay. Thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, happy gardening.